Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome to the first impressions on the Type 74, and that is more or less a mini tank review. Why? Well, because again it brings nothing really unique to the table, although certain stats are really strange. First of all, how is the Type 74? Well, overall it's alright I guess. However, it has a lot of bugs, to which I will come in a moment. We have to talk about the ammo and a few times also how I died. That was how the M60 died. He just drove into my line of fire, which is nice I guess. And now watch how I tricked this ATGM. But you know, I'm also in a very unique position to do so. This is fake side scraping. And he shoots, moving forwards, and he's catched in the reloads. And I have all the time in the world to stabilize the gun and kill him. Or rather his last remaining crew member. And then I also survived a shot from a T10M. That is nice. So that was one of the first battles that I played, but certainly not the last. So the one thing that I have to kind of summarize up here is the Type 74 is very similar to the STB-1, but has some significant, very important weak spots. Or not just weak spots, which are weird, but also is kind of weaker in certain stats that I did not expect it. We have to talk about the hydropneumatic suspension, which is actually useful on this tank. We will come to this back in a moment when we talk about certain stats, and also the armor. But also, why does this tank have an 8.3 battle rating? Why? I don't get it. You know, in overall, it feels like a nerfed STB-1, and the few advantages that it gets over the STB-1, I don't think they justify the increase in battle rating to 8.3. Now, don't get me wrong, this tank does not really suffer by it, but then I have to ask myself, why don't have a lot of other tanks 8.3 battle rating in the same manner? By the way, I used here the hydropneumatic suspension to lift my front to have better gun depression over the rear of the tank, because I expected somebody coming up behind me. And talking about gun depression, this tank has just -5 degrees of gun depression, which is overall Russian level, instead of the -9 on the STB-1, but it has 6 degrees more gun elevation, so you can compensate that with the hydropneumatic suspension in comparison to the STB-1, with the STB-1 not using the hydropneumatic suspension. So there's that. Then the top speed is the same. The reverse speed is slower, going down from -20 to just -14 kilometers an hour. The reload is the same. All the ammunition is kind of the same. But there we come to the weak spot. See that? Let's have a quick look at the armor. As we can see, the lower plate is comparable to the STB-1, but the upper hull significantly weaker, and the driver's port significantly bigger, and the sides so weak that every AAA with the stock belt goes through the side. The turret cheeks are better, but you know, then there is this turret front, which is not that convincing, and the upper turret kind of turret mantle is better, but the side is weaker by 10 millimeters, but the turret side is stronger, and the top of the tank is significantly stronger. So armor has shifted from one place to the other, not really making sense. Here is the STB-1 in comparison. Better lower plate, much better upper hull. Did I just say lower belt? Then you see there is much more angling going on, and that is just so different, you know, in its effectiveness. And I have to say, it is just awesome that this tank gets, for practically weaker hull armor, a higher battle rating. Some say there is another plate behind the gun mantle, but I did not see it, and I really did not feel it as well. On the other hand, maybe you can mimic an STB-1 and people shoot more of your turret, or you know, leave your hull or don't shoot at your hull that often. But back to other stats. For example, the ammunition racks are exactly the same, but they have a different order, and they are bugged. Usually, I use all ammunition except 15 shells to empty the ammo racks on the side of the turret and also the rear of the turret. So you just have like the ammunition racks that you have on all high tier medium tanks, so to speak. The types, the STB-1, of course, it's the very same layout. The Leopard and so on, you know, the big ammo rack next to the driver. If you remove 15 shells, that ammo rack is empty, but the ammo rack that remains is the one next to the turret. And that one gets you killed all the time because people, for some bizarre reason, shoot there and not to the other side. And that is strange. So somebody really royally screwed up. And the baffling part is, a lot of people became this tank much earlier than I did. By the way, here I just had to repair the machine gun, which is unacceptable. But I also did not fully upgrade the tank with kind of golden eagles. I dumped 2,000 golden eagles into it to get the hash shell, the fire prevention system, the repair kit, and the turret rotation upgrade. Nothing else, I think. So that means I lack the heat shell and I lack all the mobility upgrades. And the mobility is the surprising part, because it has nearly as much horsepower, just missing like 16 or something, in comparison to the fully upgraded STB-1, reaching the same top speed of 53 kilometers an hour. And watch this T-44-100 charging me. He charges me with a blown up gun. And that APDS shell did not go through the front. That's the story of my life. And that is the same stock APDS round that you get on the M60A1. So it has 320 millimeters of penetration. But that was a solid hit here into the side of the tank, disabling him. He can't return fire, and I finish him off with blowing up the ammo rack. And that time the shell goes through. So it's kind of weird. I am not really feeling that much more comfortable with this tank. However, now, because of the better turret armor and also the lack of overall gun depression, again just -5 degrees in comparison to -9 degrees, there is a reason to use hydropneumatic suspension. And I guess it's a good thing that the STB-1 has it available to let you play around with it, to get in grips with it, because you really need it on the Type 74 to get the full potential out of this tank. Because again, the hull is not really the selling point of this tank. And watch this shot. It hit the ammo rack that normally should be empty, and you can see there is no ammunition at all in this tank. Next battle, here on Frozen Pass Mountain. So the ammo rack filling is a bug. I can't do a tank review on this tank with this bug in play. Talking about bugs, the Type 61 now has different engine power, it's less. But it also has now a decent reverse gear. And I waited for this M103 to come around. And he actually shot me and did not go through. So that means you create much more random bounces, which is nice. So this is a strong point on the Type 74. Maybe there is indeed a plate behind the turret front that absorbs shrapnels or gives you additional effective armor. I don't know. I can't see it in the armor review. I did not do enough testing up until this point. So I just have to wait. And there you can see the lack of gun depression. So at this moment I could think about using hydropneumatic suspension, but it would cost me those seconds, and in those seconds I couldn't retreat furthermore. So I wait for this M47 to make his mistake. I used here tactics that I do with Russian tanks, and you know, it pays off. Another shell going into this tank, disabling him further, and now I can just aim for the driver and make the killing shot. And at this point, I see on the map, a lot of messages popping up that there are, in fact, a lot of enemy tanks. So I have to help my mouse friend and have to climb this hill. Overall, it is very refreshing that you don't need so many kind of upgrades to have the better mobility. You have kind of the upgraded mobility on the STB1, which is great, again. But on other parts, in close quarters, the maneuverability by itself seems to be a bit worse because of the slower rotation, reverse speed, and also you need all the suspension and track upgrades and the engine upgrades to come really around. And the fact that really kills this tank, in my opinion, is again the wobbling of the gun. So I don't have this upgrade, and it really hurts the tank. And watch this shot. Of course, the chieftain blows up my ammo rack by shooting me into the driver's edge with pinpoint accuracy and hits that ammo rack again with very, very precise aim. So that just it kills the tank in this respect. There we have some long-range shooting engagement here on Eastern Europe. This is actually something where the tank is really great in my opinion. However, with the APDS rounds, shots like that are so often. You could argue, yes, with Hash and Teeth that would have been the same. Yeah, but still, I don't know why, but it happens with this shell so often. But again, the APDS is unreliable, but not as unreliable as the one on the Leopard, the normal 303mm penetrating APDS round. So you feel that it is in fact a better shell. How much better? At the moment I have driven this kind of gun just way too often. Like, how many tanks are there being equipped with this gun? How many tanks? We have the M60, the M60A1. Then we have the Leopard and the Leopard A1A1. Then we have, of course, the Centurion Mark 10. Granted, it's the L7A1, but in fact it's the same gun with faster reload, just missing the heat shells. Then we also have the Type 74 and the STB1. So those are 7 tanks having practically the same gun. There is just nothing new. I know it's a good gun, but I also know that it needs the heat shell. As long as it is not the Centurion Mark 10's gun, because lower battle rating and stuff. But it is just, I can't tell you miracles about this gun when I have driven it 6 times before on other tanks, In this respect, there is kind of a lack of diversity. In fact, the most diversive nation in this respect at high tiers are the Russians, because they are the only nation not having this gun, but still for a very long time remaining, or still count on their really great APHE shells. When beautifully aimed, they just give you the results. And this guy here on my back, I don't know, I don't think he was really awake. He just didn't expect me there. He didn't look in my direction. Yeah, I know it's kind of an unusual spot, but if he would have spotted me, I would have been dead. And there, I wait for his movement. I shoot him, just killing the loader, and he points his turret in the other direction. I see it on the hit cam. And I see him reversing. And I shoot the 2 remaining crew members in the turret. So, in this situation, which tank could not have done this? Not too many tanks, right? And I did not really use hydropneumatic suspension in this battle too often. So overall, it's a nice tank, it's a good tank, it has potential, it has firepower, but again, the gun needs all the upgrades. You need to be very careful. You're not really a brawler, although amongst all the tanks having this gun, you're probably the best brawler overall. But I don't understand why this tank has the 8.3 battle rating. Like, what is the significant difference between this tank and the STB1 that justifies the 8.0 to 8.3 battle rating difference? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section, because the STB1 has effectively many more advantages, and is not worse in too many other respects. In a direct comparison, I would say that the STB1 is in my hands better than the Type 74. But those are just the first impressions. I love when APDS just simply disappears on the Object 906. It's fantastic. And when you get sniped by ATGMs, it's the best feeling in the world. So that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this tank. And give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we will see each other on the battlefields of War Thunder.